Hey guys, carrying on for the affair, season 2, episode 6. And this episode, I'm gonna admit, guys, I was a bit disappointed by this one. This was a weird episode, and definitely probably the weirdest episode we've had of this show. It wasn't necessarily, I'd say, a bad episode because everything going on in the first half of this episode was great. It was the second half that really screwed things up, and if they're taking the show the direction this episode indicates, they might have just ruined one of the best plot points this show could have had. And I really hope they're not ruining things. But I have to tell you guys, I'm really not as into this season as I was last year. I want to be. I really do want to be into this season more. And, we've had really great episodes, but I think as a whole, this season's been a bit underwhelming, I have to tell you. And I know that we are at episode 6, but I just felt the season as a whole, there hasn't really been too much happening. There's been stuff that's happening, obviously, but it just has been definitely I think the show definitely has gone through a bit of a sophomore slump. I mean, it happens, and I don't know, guys. I mean, I really want to love the show. Maybe it's because The Leftovers is so great right now, but I'm just not as into the show as I want to be. And I still really do love the characters and the acting. And let me say this, everything going on in Helen's plot is fantastic. In fact, it's some of the best stuff we've had all season. More Attorney, especially, again, amazing in this episode. So let's just get into this episode. We again had a Helen Noah episode, which are proving to be the best ones. Not the Alison and Cole episodes aren't good, but they're not very memorable. I have to tell you guys, honestly, they're not very memorable episodes. I think they're good episodes, but they're not very memorable episodes. And this episode was very memorable for wrong reasons and good reasons. But let's get to Helen stuff first, because everything going on with Helen, like I said, I loved. We begin with Helen. She's trying to get her kids ready and out of the house in order to go to a basketball game with their dad, and obviously they don't want to go. I mean, she just put them through, she put them through hell. You can tell that they're trying to get over it. Like Trevor and Stacey, they're young. They're getting over it. But Margaret also is no help whatsoever. You can definitely tell. And Margaret's going on, saying how she shouldn't let her kids, go to Noah. She doesn't think it's safe for them. And I have to say, Margaret's points, I understand. I will say that. I think she's doing, I think she's trying to make the best points possible for her daughter and kind of give her a reality check and say, hey, do you really know what you're doing here? That I understand. What I am going to say, though, is I do think that she is, kind of being a bit redundant, and it definitely, you can tell, is annoying Helen. Margaret keeps pointing out that these pains happen, so, we also see that Helen hits Trevor in the head with a basketball, with like she hits him with the head with I don't remember what it was, but she hits him in the head with something by mistake. And then we see that Stacy tells her that Martin's stomach is hurting again, which basically Margaret says that it hasn't hurt since Noah hasn't been there. He's been fine for the past few weeks. He was able to digest food, and now that he's going to see Noah, that's when his stomach cramps starts. And I do agree, Margaret, that really is what this is about. This is more about the split. It's not specifically about Noah. It's about the split. That's really what it's about. It's the fact that he has to see two people who he knows are going to be each other's throats. He knows there's going to be chaos. It's giving him indigestion, and you can totally understand that. And Martin is worse for wear, even worse in this episode than he was in episode 4. He can't even get a shirt over his head. That's how bad he is. And Margaret, meanwhile, is yelling at Noah about how the mind and the guts are connected. And it's actually a pretty funny scene, I will say that. Noah suddenly remembers he's no longer obliged to listen to her and locks himself in the car, because why does he have to listen to her? I mean, this is not his mother-in-law anymore. Even though he's going to get divorced from Helen, he doesn't need to listen to her. What's the point? There's no reason to. So he just gets in the car, and Helen, he then exchange some tense words and get onto the subject of Martin. You can tell that Helen really doesn't want Noah to be there, and she says that, Noah, it doesn't have a right to do this, that this isn't right for him to do this, but Noah pushes to take him to a specialist. Something I like about Noah is that, again, the thing with Noah is this first half with Noah is great. It's the second half that I have a problem with. This is the Noah that I really like. This is a guy that, yes, he does think about himself, but he does care about his family, and he'll do anything for his family. I think he does care about his family. I think definitely we see that here, and I think that's the Noah that we need to see more of. The Noah we get in the second half of this episode is not the Noah we need to see more of, but the Noah here is great, because he cares about his family, he wants to be there for his family, and he wants to do whatever he can to, even though, he knows his family is, you know, not going to be the same ever. He cares about his kids and he wants to be there for them. And of course, he promised Martin about this game, and Noah's talking about how they need to take him to a specialist, and basically, Margaret then appears out of nowhere to tell Noah he can't make medical decisions for the children. Martin sums this up all nicely by announcing he hates everyone. He literally says, "I hate all of you," and he says the only thing wrong with, and Margaret says the only thing wrong with, with Martin is Noah Soloway, and the car then drives away, and then we see that the butler women ride quietly up the FDR, and Helen asks if her parents are getting divorced. And Margaret says that Bruce is too cheap to divorce her, and in front of her fancy lawyer, John Bruce and Margaret start snipping at each other immediately, and Helen sits by passively, and you can tell that Bruce and Margaret aren't much better either. Obviously, they're going through a lot. They're discussing how the custody is now up for grabs because of Helen's arrest, and the kids will have to talk to a court-appointed shrink. Helen doesn't want any of it. Everywhere she looks, there is chaos. I mean, it's constant chaos for her. It doesn't stop, and the elder butlers are on full, they're screaming at each other. I mean, they're not yelling, they are screaming. And when Helen gets a call that Martin's being rushed to the emergency room, she finds this as not only a way to escape, but then again, there's more chaos to deal with, and there's nothing worse than an emergency room call. But I will say, guys, that I found this, the way they handled the scene very realistic. It's not organized at all. They're all panicking. They don't know what the hell they're going to do. I mean, this is, Martin, they never thought was going to be that bad, and she has no idea what to do. They're disorganized, there's chaos. It was very realistically portrayed, and by far one of the most intense scenes of the season. Martin is in very bad shape, and Bart, he's throwing up all over the floor, and it's green. I mean, it's really crazy stuff. It's not like Flesh and Bone where she threw up and it was just her dinner. This is like green, just green slime coming out of his mouth. It's pretty terrifying to think about. So Noah finally grabs a doctor who gets Martin and a gurney into an examination room, and the doctor tells Helen that Noah and Martin has a perforated bowel, and they start squabbling, and the doctor is saying that he can operate right now, and that they just need to chill and everything. And Martin starts babbling about wanting to go to Hawaii, not Montauk, and Helen and Noah are left helpless in the hallway, calling out weak alohas, and as they wait by side, Noah can't resist a psychosomatic as much as he'd like to be. Basically, we then see this really great scene between Helen and Noah, because they're forced to wait for Martin, even though they don't really agree with each other right now. They don't really like each other right now. They're forced to interact here, and I really like this because Helen notices that Noah has called Alison multiple times, and he tells Helen that Alison used to a pediatric nurse and that he should have listened to her, and they start arguing over who is to blame for Martin's poor intestines, and the doctor comes in to tell them to be cool, and Martin made it through the operation, so he's okay, luckily. He most likely has Crohn's disease, which is chronic but treatable, so they need to work together to help Martin lead a normal life, because obviously he's not leading a normal life right now, and it's not good for him, so they just need to be careful what happens here. So they sit on opposite sides of their son's bed. Noah's texting, and Helen tells him to just go ahead and call Alison, and I like that she actually let him do that, because Helen knows that he loves Alison and that he'll call her and that, she helps him out and it calms him down. She tells Noah she doesn't want to do this anymore. She can't keep fighting with him. She wants it all over and to go back to meditation and will give him anything he wants. That includes custody and Alison. And that was great. I love that she actually let him do that. And she even goes the extra distance and tells him he's an excellent father. It's a really great scene. It was very, very cathartic after what we've had all season. So Martin wakes up and they smile at each other, and it seems like they are back to normal terms. Something I like about Helen and Noah is that although they have, split up, they still want to be friends, and that would make perfect sense on why Helen would want to pay all this money for Noah. That would make perfect sense. We'll get into that. But then we get to the big scene this episode. This was by far the biggest scene of this episode. It's not the most controversial scene. We'll get into that. But this scene was amazing. Helen goes home to find Margaret asleep on the couch, and Margaret wakes up immediately concerned about Martin, but she's horrified to hear that Noah's with Martin at the hospital, starts going on some rant about letting the court see that Noah's such a good father, and that is it, and Helen has had it, and Helen has had it. She tells her mother that her son almost died because Helen's been listening to Margaret, and she basically tells her that a lifetime resentment boils over. She says that for, so much she's wanted to ruin her marriage to fail because hers was such a sham and she was jealous, and she blames Margaret for the fall of her marriage. She says this is not Noah's fault, and she goes to tell her mother that Margaret made her feel like Noah was never enough and that she's ruined everything, her marriage and her entire life. And she tells her flat out that she hates her. And honestly, she had it coming. I mean, Margaret has been doing this to Helen all her life. And finally, Helen is telling her, get the fuck out of my house. And she says, get out of her house. She means it. And, Margaret wakes her way down the stairs. I do feel bad for Margaret because she's just trying to be there for her daughter, but she needs to understand that her daughter is old enough to make her own decisions, and Margaret clearly does not understand that. She wants to make decisions for her. I get that she thinks, that she had a similar situation and that she can help her out. Um, my fear is, I think Helen's fear is that she's going to turn into a mother. I think that really is one of Helen's fears, that she's going to end up exactly like Margaret, and she doesn't want to raise her kids that way. She doesn't want to bring up Whitney that way. She doesn't want to bring up Stacy that way. She doesn't want to bring up Trevor or Martin that way. And obviously, she doesn't want to bring up anyone that way. So I think she's worried that she's going to turn to Margaret if she continues to learn to, lurk in their house. So I like that she actually let her, she kicked her out. I thought that was great she did that. So basically, she tells Helen that Bruce is indeed divorcing her, so Margaret isn't really having a great time either. Bruce is divorcing her. You can tell that's probably why she's really upset. And Helen then holds her ground, watches the car take her mother away. She comes inside and is just starting to allow herself the luxury of a cry. Winnie comes down the stairs, asks about her brother, and Helen tries to have a plaster face, but it's too late. Even Winnie can see that it's Helen who isn't doing okay. Helen bursts into tears, hugs her daughter, and it's a really again, another really cathartic scene because Helen's really been holding back the emotion, and now it's really finally coming out. And Maura Tierney is just amazing, honestly. She's the best on this show. I'm going to say that right now. I think out of all the people on this show, she's the best actress. I really think she really is great. I mean, Ruth Wilson is fantastic, but Maura Tierney really has had all the standout scenes of this season. So then we see in the future, basically, John tells Helen that someone who has a piece of evidence on Scott, someone has a piece of evidence on Scott, but it will cost $100,000. And of course, it's Oscar, but she actually doesn't hesitate at all. She says, okay, fine, I'll sell my house if I have to. And I think it's interesting that we saw that. So she's saying, okay, look, I'm going to sell my house. I'll do whatever I can. I want to get that evidence. And she seems very, excited to help out Noah. Obviously, she wants to take a fall for him. So definitely very interesting stuff there. Really had everything going on with Helen. Really was loving the episode. Then we get into Noah. This was weird, guys. Honestly, Noah's whole half of the episode felt like a completely different show. Honestly, it didn't even go with this show or with his character. It just felt like something the writers wanted to do because they wanted to shock us somehow, because they knew there really hasn't been much of a shock to anything this season, and they want to do something really out of the box. And I get that. I really do get that they're trying to do something a bit out of the box here. I don't have a problem with that. There's a difference between going out of the box and just being flat out weird. And that's exactly what happened here. However, the first half of Noah's stuff, the first, like I say, 8 minutes, I thought was great. He wakes up in his old bedroom, and he's not in his, guest house. He's in his old bedroom, and obviously he feels really weird because, his stuff isn't there. He's all there by himself, and he's making breakfast for Stacy, and you see that, he and the kids prepare to welcome Martin home, and it's a great scene. And I mean, you finally see them as a happy family. Even though they're going through a lot of shit, they're trying to still stay stable, and I love that. It's mainly for Martin, but just in general, they're trying to. So you see them acting like a normal family in this scene. It was amazing stuff, and you see they're all pitching in and they want to help out Martin. Winnie's bought him a cake and they have a banner. There's a vegan cake because obviously he's a vegan. And Martin walks in and he feels better already. And it's a great scene. It's a really great scene. I definitely really like that. So Helen and Noah chat civilly. They sit around like a real happy family, and it's really great. It doesn't feel real, but you can definitely tell they're trying to stay happy. I mean, definitely it feels very superficial. Especially when it's time for Noah to leave, he tells the kids they can come visit him in his new 2-room bedroom in Crown Heights, And Whitney is saying, I'll pass on that. But Helen actually said that she offers to have Noah stay at the house while she's away on Shelter Island. She wants him to go away because she's going on a yoga retreat. And Noah leaves with a backward glance at the house. And it seems like she actually is wanting to trust him. The rest of the episode, though, I don't know if that's a good idea because the rest of this episode portrays Noah as a monster. It does. We get this really great side of Noah, how he really cares for his family. He's this family man. He wants to do every can for his family. I like that he's actually trying to be a good father. He wants to be there for his kids. He doesn't want to be like Bruce, and he doesn't want to be he wants to be more like his father. His father obviously brought him up very well, and you can tell that Bruce obviously didn't bring Helen, didn't bring up Helen very well. I think, Helen's her own person, but he just wasn't a very good father. And you can tell that Noah, I think, definitely wants to make an effort to help out his kids, which I definitely like seeing. So he drives up to the West Side Highway with a smile on his face and some flowers on the front seat, and he's singing the song by Golden Smog, You Make It Easy. Really great song. I really thought it was very good here. He's ignoring a call from Harry. He's pretty much on top of the world, and he's heading up to see Alison. And you think everything's going to be great here, and then things get weird. I mean, this scene wasn't weird. It was everything after this that was weird. Alison is staying at this nudist colony. Okay. She's staying at the Sosana Institute, and there are a lot of guys running around naked. He gets to a cabin, and Athena is there. She's staying with Allison, and Noah seems horrified that his fantasies have been dashed, and it's a pretty funny scene because, of course, he pictures her in these sexual ways, and now it's kind of coming true. However, Allison is in a bathing suit, and basically, he's happy to see her for two reasons. One, she's swimming, so she's doing that. She's facing her fears in swimming. Two, she's really happy, and he's happy to see her, definitely. And as they sit, Noah apologized to Allison about Martin's near-death experience and how it's made him realize how terrible Allison losing her son really was. A really great scene here. He talks about how he felt that emotion that she had and how he felt really bad about it. And she listens calmly and tells him to not apologize. She's being really friendly, but you can tell she's really upset because obviously she read the book and she's not going to let that anger in. She's going to let it out here, and she does let it out. And he tells her the good news. He and Helen are divorced, and they can be together, and everything's good. So Allison isn't happy, though. She actually says that she's like, oh, so we're still a couple? And I thought this was a really great scene here because she's actually quite upset. It's probably the first time we've seen the real side of Allison and not the superficial, over-sexualized side of Noah that he always portrays her as. And I really like seeing that. So we realize it's been 6 weeks without any real communication, and she also tells him that she read his book, and he's saying that's a terrible idea, and she goes on to talk about how she knows that she's sex and more sex, and Noah's saying that he wanted to prepare her, and then he tells her that it's fiction, that it's not about them, it's just simply a book, and that he's supposed to be the asshole of the story, and then he says that he's writing them a happy ending, and Allison correctly points out that this is the ending that Harry wants him to change, so clearly that's not the ending that they're going to have. And she goes on to say that maybe she was right, maybe she does have too much sex. And what Allison says here is very interesting. She talks about how he met her at a very bad time in her life, when she lost Gabriel, and how she was a bit of a nymphomaniac, and how she just wanted to have constant sex because she hadn't done that a lot. But then when she started to, she kind of found it therapeutic. And her friend Sebastian thinks it came from the same impulse as cutting herself, and Noah is saying, how's that going to go when we leave here? And Allison says that she wants to stay abstinent. She wants to stay abstinent, not abstinent, you know what I mean. She wants to stay, celibacy. She doesn't want to have sex. She wants to wait. And I really like that scene. So she suggests he stay with her for a while. And then we get some really funny scenes here of Noah trying to work on the grounds. There's a bench he's on. He's trying to get some inspiration for his book. And next he tries going inside a yoga studio, but he can't settle down. There's a picnic table where a bug crawls on him. City boy that he is flips him off, and he flips out on him. The stone bench doesn't really do it for him either. And this is where he runs into Allison's mother. And she catches up up to him. She busts on him for having writer's block, and she says, it's really great to see Allison happy instead of dark, and he says, sorta. She then rouses him up by suggesting maybe he's attracted to Allison when she's unhappy rather than not, and interesting. Definitely very interesting. That's something that I think they handled well in this episode. What I don't think they handled well is everything that happens after this, because he finds Allison talking to a handsome man who is Sebastian Junger, who is a very famous author. He wrote The Perfect Storm and War, and he's just seeing Noah fan out over this was very funny. Noah's usually really like reserved, things like that. So Sebastian informs Noah he loves at the Institute. Noah very transparently is suddenly like, oh, okay, maybe I do too, and he suggests that soon there's Athena working on giving Noah a massage, and this is where things get weird. I don't know what they were trying to do here, but this did not go with Noah's character at all. Okay, yes, he's always had dark thoughts, but things like this didn't make sense to me because I'll tell you guys why. Alison so far this season has been portrayed as Noah's happiness, the person that brings him joy, the person that when he's in a bad situation, this is someone he goes to talk to and she makes him feel better. This did not indicate that. This showed me that this is not good. This is not what he's thinking at all. Basically, Athena diagnosed him as being trapped between wanting stability and being attracted to darkness, and Noah looks as though he's beginning to believe. He gets on his stomach, Athena gets real witchy, and Noah starts seeing that dark road we've seen before, and we didn't know what that was about. He tries to shut it out, but he sees himself driving behind the wheel, and then we see that figurehead, and it's Alison in the road, and he possibly runs her down? I don't know, guys. This was weird. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not trying to say it. I felt like this was very much style over substance. This didn't really go with anything else that had happened in the episode. I don't know where the hell this came from. It just felt like it completely came out of nowhere. So we go straight to Allison, and the rest of the episode, they portray him as a monster. He grabs her, takes her into the woods, despite her telling him she did not want to have sex. He has sex with her anyway, and, you can tell he's clearly jealous for a relationship with Sebastian. He's letting the darkness in all right, and they have sex against the tree. Now, I do understand that he saw how aggressive she was with Cole when they had sex in the car in season 1, but Allison's changed now. She told him, I don't want to have sex with you, and you can tell that she's kind of uncomfortable. I don't think that Noah necessarily raped her, because she didn't say, I don't want to do this, but she didn't really give consent either. So, she puts up with this for, with whatever she wants, and, you can tell that she really doesn't want this, and it was really weird. It really was. It really just came out of nowhere, because afterwards she turns around, they look at each other, Allison tells him that she's pregnant, and, now we get into the story of who the hell is this baby, because we know that her and Cole had sex. Her and Noah have had too much sex, and clearly they've used protection, but I don't think her and Cole did. I think they had sex without using protection, because why, I don't think that she intentionally came to Cole to have sex with him. I don't think she did that. They did that out of, emotion, that rather than thinking. So, if this is Cole's baby, that's really fucking stupid. I'm sorry. We had an entire season about how Noah and Allison love each other and how they are meant for each other and how this is all supposed to be their relationship and how he prefers Allison over Helen. And now it seems like he's happier with Helen. It doesn't really make any sense, guys. I'm sorry. And I know that it could be like, oh, well, now they're trying to show that it was a bad idea what he did. I understand that, and I get that he's understanding that, now he can't go back, but why is he having these dark thoughts? Because then he's typing frantically, remembering the road, the figure of Allison. He smiles as he runs her over. He's smiling. He's not happy. He's not crying or anything. He's smiling when he does this. So he picks up the phone and then tells Harry that he's done with the book, and that's the end of the episode. That was fucking weird. It was just a really strange episode. Really, really weird stuff. And the episode was great up till then. It was just so, so strange. And this is not the direction to take Alison and Noah at all. This is not what I want them to do. I don't want some soap opera-ish story. Part of what makes the affair so great is because it portrays an affair realistically. I get that Noah, always had these feelings for Alison, and maybe he's realizing he doesn't love her like he thought, but that's not how they've been portraying it. They've been portraying it as Alison is his muse, and she's the person that calms him down and helps him out. I mean, remember that great speech he gave to her in episode 3? And then he told her how he really cares about her? Now it's suggesting that he doesn't. He has dark feelings for her, and that he only loves her when she's upset, and that's bullshit. We've seen these two happy together before. It's complete bullshit, and it just feels like the writers are just pulling something out of their ass because they want to come up with some random story to make us happy, and it's really fucking stupid, honestly. This was really stupid. I can't take this seriously, really, at all. I want to take this seriously, but It was way too dark. It didn't go with anything going on, and I definitely not like that. I did really like the stuff going on with Helen and Noah. I hope that they can keep and maintain a good relationship, a good friendship. I like the bonding that they have. It's just the direction they took this episode in was very weird. And it was, Noah is an actor as well. I mean, it wasn't bad. His acting, really a fan of it. I thought it really came out of left field. It really didn't go with the rest of what was going on. But overall, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts in this episode. This was just strange. The first half was so good. We had that great buildup with Noah and Helen and how he really wanted to call Alison. That's what doesn't make sense. He drives to see Alison to realize he's wants to possibly kill her. I don't understand why they're doing this. Why are they suddenly portraying Noah as a monster? I get that maybe he's an asshole, but Noah's not a monster. That's how they portrayed him in this episode, and it was really stupid. And I don't like that at all. And I am starting to think that Allison might be faking some of her more prudish ways. I feel like definitely she was more into it than she acted, than we thought she was. But this episode as a whole, I just thought was very strange. I thought it was really great until those last, like, I'd say 15 minutes. That's really when this episode went off the rails. And I really hope the show doesn't go downhill. I want this to be a show that stays consistent, and I have to tell you guys, this episode just made me not put this show on my top 10 list because I wanted to, but now I'm not as into it, and this is why. I really hope that they fix this because this could potentially make me stop watching the show. Something like this is really fucking stupid, and I hope they don't do this again. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. I'd like to hear your thoughts, and it was a very bizarre one. But I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for Flesh and Bone, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.